know that the New Orleans Saints are going to be operating as sellers at the NFL trade deadline on November 4th. And we know that the Saints need to get some draft capital back because they don't have a lot of picks in the future. So we have to have the conversation. Who is on the trade block? We're going to go through each and every player that has been discussed in Trade Buzz and the guys that I think are on the move. Welcome into Saints Down by Chat Sports. My name is Trizzy Trace Gerard. Thanks so much for watching today's video. Now, what we know is that the New Orleans Saints are not going to be trading wide receiver Chris Olave, barring any unforeseen massive offers. If you get an offer you can't refuse, of course, things could change. But it looks like the future for number 12 is going to be here in New Orleans. The Saints are working on an extension for the wide receiver rather than trading him. However, he is getting a lot of interest, and I could see some wide receiver needy teams really desiring his services. However, I think that he will stick around. He sounds confident. The Saints sound confident. It doesn't seem like he is going anywhere. Now, like I said, the Saints are lacking draft capital in the future, and you cannot rebuild a team with only 5 picks. You need to get some draft capital in return. So I believe that the New Orleans Saints will be making moves before the November 4th trade deadline. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you should subscribe, because we are going to be live here on the channel Tuesday for the trade deadline. Make sure you subscribe, turn on your notifications. That way you don't miss a thing, because we're going live around noon, maybe earlier, and we will let you guys know any and all moves that happen across the league. Now, let's go through some trade candidates, offense, and then defense. We're going to start off with Rashid, the need for speed, Shaheed. I hate that we have to have this conversation, but it's one that I've mentally prepared myself for. I do believe that Rashid Shaheed is going to be on the move here at the trade deadline. Personally, I think that the Saints are going to let Rashid Shaheed play with New Orleans this final week against the Rams with Tyler Shuck, see how he works with Shaheed, see if they can get that offense moving with him. And if things go well, then maybe they end up keeping him. But if, things are kind of the same or, God forbid, worse, then, I do think that Shaheed is going to be on the way out. The asking price, reports are saying that it's a third-round pick. I think that it would be a smart decision to turn an undrafted free agent into a third-round pick if you take away who the player is. But all that being said, Rashid Shaheed is a very special player, and if you extend Chris Olave, it makes Rashid Shaheed expendable, so it is a conversation that we have to have. I would hate to trade him, but, he is getting significant interest. The Steelers, the Bills, the Broncos are all teams that I know could use Rashid Shaheed's services. Hell, even the Patriots. Could you imagine him with Drake May? That'd be a cheat code. Now, another wide receiver, not Chris Olave, but Brandin Cooks, a familiar face when it comes to trades. This would be his 5th time being traded if he is moved at the deadline. 32 years old. By the way, it's crazy to think Rashid Shaheed's 27 years old. Kind of slips your mind there. But anyway, Brandin Cooks. Look, I don't think that this is a player that you absolutely need in New Orleans. He signed a 2-year contract. It's not like he is a massive asset, but I do think that there is value in having an experienced wide receiver in the room. The Saints currently lack size. Brandin Cooks isn't a guy who provides that, but he does provide experience. He provides nice mentorship. And I do think when it comes to New Orleans, they will trade a wide receiver. Whether it's Cooks, whether it's Shaheed, whether it's Olave, one of those guys will be on the move. Personally, I think it's going to be Rashid Shaheed. Maybe even Brandin Cooks. I could see that Saints trading even 2 wide receivers. 1 is definitely going to happen. 2, I think, is going to happen for sure. And I believe that the New Orleans Saints will be trading a wide receiver here in the near future. Now, I want you to get in the comment section and share your thoughts. Who do you think is a player the Saints will trade? A receiver, a corner, a lineman? I don't know. Let's go through the conversation and have the talk about it. Let me know what you guys think down below. Who do you think the Saints will trade? Another player to keep your eyes on. Again, this is a list. It came from ESPN. This is a list that was accumulated of all the players that have gained interest or that could be potentially moved for whatever reason. Taysom Hill is a player that I think only would get trade interest from one team, and that is the Denver Broncos, obviously because of Sean Payton. Look, we love Taysom Hill. The rest of the league doesn't really understand the value of Taysom Hill. They don't understand how it works. So it's not like you're going to get anything illustrious in return for a Taysom Hill trade. But he clearly doesn't have the same juice. He clearly isn't the same player he used to be. It is a pretty incredible thing what he did. Returned to game action in October of 2025. He scored a touchdown this season. He tore his ACL less than a year ago. He's 35 years old. Like, that's pretty impressive, all things considered. But, you do have to have the conversation about offloading players because you do need to get capital back. And if Sean Payton calls and wants to get Taysom Hill, I don't think that that's a bad thing to necessarily consider. Now, I don't think he does get moved. I think Taysom Hill will retire a New Orleans Saint. I mean, it just makes too much sense. He recently reworked his contract to make him a more affordable player. Anytime that he didn't play in a game, he would forfeit X amount of money. I believe it was like $500,000 of his contract. It's something crazy. But I do think when you're New Orleans, if you trade him, you save $6 million in 2025. So, you have to consider all aspects here. Now, we could also see potentially Foster Moreau get traded. Not the tight end that you guys want to be moved, but the tight end that's actually a little bit contractually easier to trade. Now, Juwan Johnson is a player I know a lot of y'all are frustrated with, but financially, it just does not work out unless there's some crazy restructure that happens, but he would have to agree to that. It's just not something that's foreseeable in the future, but Foster Moreau is a player that could be dealt. He suffered a knee injury last year in the final 2 minutes of the season, and he returned to game action. He hasn't really been utilized all that much, only 2 targets, 1 catch, 9 yards. He really needs to get more involved, and I believe that he is a player that should be more involved because I have a lot of value in Foster Moreau, and I think that he's undervalued and underrated as a tight end. But I think that trading a tight end in general, whether it's Moreau, whether it's Maliki Matavao, Jack Stoll, whatever, Juwan Johnson, it's just a bad idea. Like, the tight end room is so thin in New Orleans. You trade one of those players, you already are going to be suffering more than you already are. And the fact that you aren't getting proper utilization from the tight end room really makes me cautious to move a tight end. I don't think that Foster Moreau would get traded. He's a valuable leader. He's from Louisiana. He's obviously somebody who I think is a culture builder. So I just think that when it comes to Foster Moreau or the tight end position, it just doesn't make a ton of sense. But again, ESPN thinks that that is a player that could be moved. Now we're going to get to some more players on the defensive side of the football here in one moment. But first things first, got to tell you guys about today's presenting sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. This episode of Saints Now by Chat Sports, brought to you by the best daily fantasy sports app in all of the world. We make decisions every single day, but over on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. And I got a pretty sweet deal for you. If you download the Prize Picks app and you use code CLNS, you will get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. It's so easy. I like to say a Falcons fan can do it. And if you need some inspiration on how Prize Picks works, got a pretty cool lineup for you. I got Jake Retzlaff, the quarterback for Tulane, with the more on his passing yards against UTSA. Loco Lopez likes to call him Juby1. Carnell Tate, the big-bodied wide receiver. I think that he's going to have a big day against Penn State. Maybe future Saints legend. And Carson Beck against SMU. I'm actually going to be at this game. Eyes on Ruben Bain Jr. I'm going to be scouting him, seeing what he can do for the Saints, and I think that Carson Beck is going to have less on his passing yards against the SMU Mustangs. If you want to fade these picks, you want to tail these picks, don't care what you do, just make sure you do it on Prize Picks. You can follow other players directly on the Prize Picks app or copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or someone whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab over on Prize Picks. Make sure you download the app. Use code CLNS. You'll get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Click the link in the comments or description of this video to get started today. Shout out to Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. All right, let's talk about a couple of other trade candidates. 2 guys that are kind of in the same category for me. Defensive veterans, Saints legends, players that are core pieces to this roster. I can understand why you would want to trade these players. I can understand why teams would want to trade for these players. But personally, I would just be shocked if New Orleans were to trade Cam Jordan or Demario Davis. I just don't see a world where that's going to happen. Again, if you get an offer you can't refuse, that changes things. But I just don't think that that is a move that New Orleans is willing to make. I don't think it's a move that the players want to make. And maybe I'm a fan and my black and gold glasses are on right now. I believe that players like Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, and Alvin Kamara deserve the opportunity to choose whether or not they get dealt. I think that they deserve to choose their future. And a lot of those guys, in my opinion, and they already have, decided they want to stick around in New Orleans. And I don't think keeping a veterans is a bad thing. Like, I want to make something explicitly clear. Of course, you want to get younger. You want to get cheaper. You want to be able to see what you have in the youth. You are getting declining play from these guys. But there is value in having quality veterans. Kellen Moore is not just trying to overhaul a roster and turn things around for the New Orleans Saints. He's trying to create a culture. He's trying to set the foundation for sustained success. And Cam Jordan and Demario Davis are two of the most successful players at their respective positions and two of the best defensive players in the history of the National Football League. I don't think that having them around is a bad idea, especially when you're ushering in the new era of Saints football. Keeping a veteran isn't a bad idea. I understand why people may want to trade them, but I just think that there is real value in keeping some of these guys in New Orleans. Now, a player that I'm very, very willing to trade, Pete Werner, the linebacker, only 26 years old. So he could be a very interesting player for some teams out there who are dealing with some linebacker injuries, who aren't getting proper play, like the Colts and the 49ers, for example, come to mind. I think that Pete Werner has not really lived up to his 3-year, $25 million contract extension. I think that when he's making $17.5 million, I want to see him, or that was $17.5 million guaranteed. I want to see him cash in on that. I want to see the New Orleans Saints get quality production out of him. I think that he's a good player. I don't think he's a great player, and I think the New Orleans Saints invested in him to become a great player. He has not taken that big step. He hasn't taken that leap. He is a quality player, but I think that he is somebody who's sort of getting ushered out. And you know, I tweeted this out a while back. It feels like Danny Stutsman and Isaiah Stalbird and even Jalen Ford, they've been rotated in a lot more frequently recently. And I could see the Saints doing that to get a read on their young players and say, hey, are we comfortable moving off of Pete Werner? And, you know, in recent weeks, it's seeming like that's a bigger and more common trend. Now, trading Pete Werner, in my opinion, would be a good idea. I think you could get some nice return. You don't have a 4th-round pick. Shoot, if you get a 4th-round pick for Pete Werner, you're telling me no? Absolutely not. I would go crazy for a 4th-round pick for Pete Werner. But I do think overall, get off the contract, allow Danny Stutsman to get in there, keep Demario Davis next to him so he has a veteran, he has a quality player that next to him who can kind of teach him and show him the ropes. Then you can have Isaiah Stalbird and Jalen Ford compete for that extra spot next to him and eventually take over, as Demario Davis ends his National Football League career. Now, I am really excited to see the future of the linebacker position. Danny Stutsman, Isaiah Stalbird, those guys are really, really exciting players. I'm a dirty little stut. Y'all already know that. He's a friend of the program. Steve, if you're watching, I hope you and the family are doing well. And Isaiah Stalbird, that dude is a thumper. I think the Saints got a dude in that player. I'm really excited to see them and see the future of the linebacker position. If you're with me, smash the thumbs up icon. Now, another defensive veteran that could be on the move, a familiar face, Isaac Yiadom. He was with the Saints. He left the Saints in free agency. He came back in free agency, and now he is a backup as a cornerback. With Isaac Yiadom, it's an interesting story here because he was the starting cornerback too across from Kool-Aid McKinstry. But due to injury and, quite frankly, lackluster play, Quincy Riley emerged in a big, big way, and now he is the starting CB2 in New Orleans. And Kellen Moore has not shied away from that. He's even confirmed and doubled down, saying, no, that's our guy. Like, we're rolling with him. He's been putting out good play. He's getting better. We want to see him continue to grow. We want to see him continue to develop. And I think that that is a good strategy and a good way to go about this. Quincy Riley has been impressive, and I really like what I've seen out of the rookie. And I think that with him and Kool-Aid McKinstry, that's a fun cornerback duo. And if you keep Alontae Taylor around for the near future or for the long term, a fun trio. All in all, when it comes to Isaac Yiadom, don't expect much. Like maybe a 7th-round pick, which you don't have. That'd be cool. Get your 7th-round pick back. Maybe it's like one of those pick swaps. You get an extra 5th or something. I don't know. My point being, you're not going to get really anything nice in return for Isaac Yiadom. It's not something you should expect. But maybe he does get dealt, and he's healthy now. So, you know, it's CB needy team could make some calls. Now, one more corner that I would very much so be hesitant on trading, Alontae Taylor, another name. This is the last name in our list of ESPN trade candidates and notable players that could be dealt. Now, he's been popping up a lot in trade rumors. And it's something that at first when the trade buzz kind of started a few weeks ago, really didn't hear much about him. It was pretty much Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and then some Demario Davis here and there. But now you're really starting to hear more and more about Alontae Taylor being traded. I think that it's because he's an appealing player. He's still young, but he has really nice experience. He has extreme versatility. He can do a lot of things very, very well. And he is on the final year of his contract. So if you don't want to give him a long-term deal and you'd rather just say, thanks for the rookie contract, you're going elsewhere, maybe you try to get something in return if he's not a piece of the long-term future. I personally believe he is a piece of the long-term future in Brandon Staley's defense. But again, that could change, and that's just my opinion. I would prefer to keep Alontae Taylor. He's emerged in a big way as a leader. I think he's a player that is an enforcer on the Saints defense. He's a jolt of energy for the team, and I think he brings a lot of swagger and a lot of dangerous mentality to that side of the football. And when he's on the field, you can feel his effects. When he's making plays and he started to take over, he is a very disruptive and very dominant player. And I really value Alontae Taylor, and I think that he's gotten better and better and better. And of course, it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows, but he's been asked to do so much. Move outside, move inside, learn this, learn that. You're not really getting consistency anywhere because he's doing everything. So I really believe that Alontae Taylor is a player that should stick around, and I think the Saints would be better off keeping him. You do have to keep some of these younger players and these young stars. I understand you want to get clear of the cap space, but you got to fill out the roster, and you got to have young players that you can build around as well and be a part of the future. Now, we are on the road to 52K. We are less than 50 away, Saints fans. Help your boy out. Hit the sub button for more content just like this. We will be live for the NFL trade deadline. My name is Trizzy Trace Gerard for my guy Loco Lopez. Don't forget to join the Golden Gang and hit that sub button.